We are virgins no longer.
So a little fun fact about Greece.
In a boat, we're Americans. We're going to spend money. And at the risk of sounding morbid,
The oldest travel influencers on the podcast scene at some point here. So Chuck and I are happy to take your calls. Well, if I had a secretary, we're separate but equal. Someone has to like me best. Enough money and time, you can do anything you want in this world.
the man, the myth, and legend.
I got a Volvo.
Not a political statement.
Travel like something is potentially going wrong. Extra underwear. You can't wear shorts everywhere.
Chuck decides to move to France.
Well, first of all, let's just say this. Everybody get your passports. Who's coming? I'll fight you.
I'm not trying to be funny. They speak the language.
Today's my last day. We're just going to shut down right here.
We spent 4 days of the cruise in our cabins dying.
And if you're sick, don't travel. Ever handsome, ever friendly, ever wonderful. It's not that I don't like children.
She's very picky about everything but her men.
I do believe I proclaimed for the spirit that day because I don't wear pajamas.
And last week on Life in the Baggage Claim.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Life in the Baggage Claim. I'm here with my esteemed co-host, Chuck Longerbeam, and this is episode 7.
Can't believe it.
What's that? I know, can you say I can't? It's amazing, right? We've got 7 weeks in the bag now. And
I know.
I've read statistically a lot of podcasts fail after the 3rd episode because people run out of energy on it. And, here am I. I'm like, every day I'm sort of like, look at this, Chuck. Look at that, Chuck. Look at this, Chuck. Banging things over to you,
I was going to say, the idea of you or I running out of energy is foreign to me.
Yeah, I'm sure if they could tap into us, they wouldn't need solar or wind power. They'd probably
Correct.
We could probably outdo, nuclear if we work on it. That makes us like a nuclear option, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Not a nuclear couple, folks. Not a nuclear couple. I love him, but I don't love him.
No comment.
So, that'll go in the next bloopers reel. So hopefully if some of you have been watching our content, Chuck's creation this last week of I'm going to grab all the funny and silly lines we've used and patch them together into a conversation as our lead into our last podcast. I know I sat there and sort of laughed. Shout out to Derek. He listened to it. He got a giggle. He said, well, that certainly in your face tells you that you guys are going to be fun when I watch it. So hopefully that resonates with folks. That's a big thing. We also this week launched a website, and
we did.
It's nothing more than a placeholder about the podcast. And it has a link to the playlist and to the shorts. Eventually, in the big world, someday when our ship comes in, we will decide to maybe sell some merch or maybe do more. Who knows? But it's just a place that you can go see what's going on. Maybe we'll build a community there. Lots of cool things.
If we get merch, I want a t-shirt that says, I got a Volvo. That's just, I got a Volvo. I've got to tell you, when I was putting that together, it's just the inflection in your voice makes me laugh. So you're like, I got a Volvo. It was, and out of context.
It's funny the way you piece it together, I will say.
Well,
we are virgins no more is the leading line. Is probably the one that will go down in infamy.
Couldn't resist that one. That one was too good.
So, if you're new here today, welcome to our podcast. If you're just finding us, it was a great week. I got to meet some other fellow podcasters as I went to the How To podcast. Dave Campbell, shout out to Dave. Hosts meetups every Tuesday. I'm going to drag Chuck into the next one. And then they do something on Saturday as more of a Q&A. It's a great way for someone like us. We're new. We don't know everything, to go see what's happened in the world, how people do this. And it was really good and affirming feedback, which is something you need when you're a creator because, you put your heart and soul into all this and you hope somebody likes it.
Exactly.
Right. So as a little change in format today, warnings, right? We're going to talk about a destination or a kind of travel worry thing. Today is a get to know you day, and we're going to get to know Chuck. So this should be interesting if you are curious about the quieter part of this podcast, the man who doesn't talk as much as I do. Well, that's what we're going to learn about today. So we put together a series of questions, and I'm going to pick them in no set order. So this will sort of be a little winging it, but we are prepared for them just in case, because there's nothing better than dead time on a podcast as someone thinks about an answer and goes,
exactly.
I can say that. All right, Chuck, are you ready?
Hit me, Big Daddy. Let's go.
By the way.
What's that?
How has your week been?
I don't know. We were Jim and I were talking prior to this, and without sounding old and whiny, and I've been fighting something for the last couple of days, and I can't put my finger on it. I just feel crappy, and it's not deflating my spirit. It just kind of slowing me down from my normal sprint. But other than that, doing fine. Everybody's family's fine. Everybody's fine. I just feel poop.
Well, I hope you get over that.
Thank you.
You don't want you being sick.
I don't want to get.
Let's pick a question here and see what you have to say. So, if you had an extra hour every day, how would you spend it to truly benefit yourself or someone else, Chuck?
Well, instantly I think of my wife because I try to do everything I can to make her life easier. Work on the house. So we bought our house almost 23 years ago. And when we purchased it, it's a 3-2 rancher that was, a rectangle with white walls and crappy carpeting. And when we first walked in the house, my wife was like, no. And I'm like, oh, no, baby. And I grew up in the construction industry. So my parents owned a construction company. So I was like, no, this is a diamond in the rough. We can redo this. Well, we've redone probably 80% of the house over the last 23 years, but there's some other things to be done. And once we are finished today, I've got to go install some new gutters. So to make mama happy, if I could finally get the house finished, that would be the thing. And I know she's going to listen to this and be like, ding. So exactly. Yeah. So an extra hour a day, I'm already putting some time in, but yes.
I don't think I would want to do gutters. I hate ladders. I don't mind getting on them, but if they get too high, I get anxious.
Well, I'm not a big fan, but where I'm changing out the gutters on the house, I can literally reach up and touch them. So, I'll have to get on a step ladder, but they're not, 30 feet off the ground. I can literally touch them. I'm not a big fan of heights either. So.
All right, let's take another one here. Let's see. What is one common advice you completely disagree with and why?
Well, okay, so maybe this isn't a common advice, but the thing that's always driven me crazy, I was a teacher for years and an educator for years, and I've always hated when people say there's no such thing as dumb questions. That has always driven me crazy, and I'll tell you why. There is such a thing as dumb questions, and they're questions that are asked without any forethought. So if I ask you, what's your name? It's on the screen. I've known you for a long time. And that's a very weak, example. But when people ask questions without any forethought, that drives me crazy. And unfortunately, without getting way too deep into this, I think that's a big problem with what's going on in our country right now, is that people, they make assumptions and they ask questions without any context or forethought or foreknowledge either. And it just comes out as, and then they want to defend that crappy question to the nth degree. Right now, that's, I don't know if that's advice. I hope I didn't blow that question up, but that's the thing. That's when people say there's no such thing as a dumb question. I'm the first agitator to go, yes, there is. Yes, there is. Think it through first.
And I think it goes along even to say that there's just not questions that aren't right. You don't ask them at a certain time. You don't ask something that isn't appropriate at the time.
Exactly.
I see a lot of that in the media these days, right? We love to shift the topic real fast. Today's briefing is about this, but we're going to talk over here. Yeah.
Right. Well, and since I guess this is my time, the other thing, and you and I have had this conversation too, it just, and I don't think this is going to be unpopular or whatever, but there's just no class or decorum anymore. I'm not saying that hard questions should not be asked of anyone. I'm not saying that information shouldn't be out. I'm not saying those things. I'm just saying it wasn't that long ago where people would stop. And I guess this goes back to the no dumb question thing. People would stop and ask themselves exactly what you're saying. Does this question need to be asked? A, period, and B, right now. And I just think that's gone. I think the filter between here and here on a lot of us has just broken down. And if if it crosses our mind, we spew it. And it just, and you and I have talked about this. A lot of times when people ask like gotcha questions and all that, it's like, what's the point? Like, you really don't want an answer. You just want something to fight against. And that's the class and decorum I'm talking about. Anyway, you and I have had many conversations, and we won't do it here, but about, religion, politics, everything. And we don't see eye to eye on everything, but we do have respect for each other, and we do have class, and we're not trying to gotcha and ooh, I got that point, you didn't get that point. And wow, I went off on a tangent, but you asked, so there you go.
In case you're new joining us today and you've never joined our podcast before, this is Life in the Baggage Claim, and we are talking about Chuck today. And, it's funny because I think in some ways, these are the questions you might have while you're sitting in a baggage claim. You might talk to somebody. Exactly. So appropriate conversation point. This is one of our more different style of things we want to do. So you didn't join some rantings and ravings podcast. This is all in fun.
Well, And you're exactly right. But as we go forward, I think the thing to keep in mind, folks, if you're new to this, is you will not hear either of us say mean things to each other or get too deep into politics or anything like that. I'm talking about more about societal things that I see, and I'm making no distinction between, tribe or party or whatever. I'm just saying, I just wish we were a little bit nicer to each other as human beings.
Absolutely.
That's all I'm saying.
The world could use a lot more niceness.
Correct.
All right, let's take the next one here. Let's see. What is a skill you wish you had, even a really random one, and why?
Okay, what is a what?
What is the skill you wish you had?
Skill. The ability to finish projects.
Boy.
My wife is cheering right now. I guarantee you, she listens, she'll be like,
yeah, 30th watcher of one day in this episode.
No, I would say no, honestly, and this kind of goes in the same thing. I have raging ADHD. I have had my whole life. I've been medicated on and off, and I've worked it through best I can. But I would say long-term planning. I've always struggled with long-term planning, and that's one of the reasons why my wife and I are such a great couple, because she has no problem with that. But I'm a very in front of your face, get it done. What about this kind of guy? And I wish I wasn't. I wish I do. My wife sent me this TikTok yesterday or the day before, and this person was talking about neurodivergence, talking about ADHD and all that. And they were like our superpower is we'll sit and do nothing for 3 days, and then in 2 days do the work that most people will get done in a month. And that is absolutely me, and it always has been. I wish I could be a little bit more even with that and long-term plan.
That's a hard one to explain to you. I've had the similar experience in the corporate workspace. I'd have a job, you know what you got to do, right? Mm-hmm. I could fit it into a day or 5 days. I could make it work. Mm-hmm. And so I'd often find myself with time to do other things. And if your boss notices that, they start to wonder what's going on. And it's not that I'm not getting my job done, but yeah, that's probably why when I sent you the first plan for this podcast, you were like, yes, because it was already all detailed out. It was planned out for the next 12 months,
Exactly. I was like, thank God Jim's that way. But yeah, that's
balance here, right?
Exactly. But that's the big thing. I mean, it's exactly like you said. When I was in the corporate world, I hit every deadline. It was never a problem. But that didn't mean that, if a deadline was Friday at 3:00, that I didn't start the project Friday at 1:00. But it was going to get done, and it got done well. And what I did have to teach myself when I was a principal, and I'm very proud of myself for dealing with this, but what I did teach myself, and for those of you out there who are not neurodivergent and are scratching your heads going, what? This is honest. This is a thing, very big thing. I had to teach myself to not procrastinate. And if something came across my desk, I got it done immediately if possible so that I could get it out of the way. Because if not, it was going to be it's 1:00 on Friday and I've got 2 hours to get this done.
Yeah.
And that's a very real thing for folks with ADHD.
Yeah, it's funny because that was me, and people get mad because they think, oh, you're just trying to be the star pupil. You get things in early. It's like, no, I get them in as soon as I get them, because in an hour, my ADHD will take me through 6 other squirrels, and I won't know what to do.
Exactly.
Come back to that email and go,
No, you're 100% correct. I was the same way. It's like everybody's like, you're so efficient. I'm like, if you only knew. It's not efficiency. It's self-defense. Right, it's
we're good.
Right, it's not efficiency, it's self-defense. That's all it is.
I think that's the website yesterday after joining Dave Campbell's podcast. Heard things, threw things into Gemini, asked it some questions. I did a self-reflection through AI, and it came back and said, hey, you probably need a website. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well,
2 hours later, I sent Chuck a website.
I was going to say, this is my partnership with Jim. I'm sitting here eating dinner, and my phone goes off and off and off, and it goes, check this out. And I go, and there's a whole, well, first of all, he's like, what's your handle for this? What's your this? What's your this? What's your that? What's the other thing? I'm like, okay. And then, I don't know, maybe an hour later, boop, website. Oh, okay. Thanks, Jim.
Well, for those of you who don't know, the way we've broken up this, and this is probably the joy of doing a podcast, is Chuck is my video guy. He's the one who sits and does all the editing. He pulls all the clips together. He gets rid of the garbage and cuts out the bloopers and makes the funny reels. And I do all the creative. So I build the artwork and all that kind of stuff. And I think we've evenly divided these things well. I think it's where our strong suits are. I love being creative. I've rarely gotten the chance in my life to be super creative. So this has been a great experience for that. And when I started looking at how to do the video editing on this first time, I was ready to throw things at the computer, so The computer may have ended up in the backyard at some point.
Well, and it's funny you said that because you're the kind of guy that's like, oh, AI says we need a website. Jim creates a website. I'm the kind of guy that when it was, because I'm creative in my own way, but like digital creativity and all that kind of stuff, it's just not me. I wish it was, but it's not. Maybe that's the skill I should get. But the thing is, with like got into editing, man, I went down a YouTube rabbit hole and watched, and I'm not kidding you, probably 3 hours of videos on editing. Next thing you know, I'm like, and Jim's like, oh, okay, cool. It's like, because that made sense to me. That's building something. That's nuts and bolts. I can do that. But pulling an image out of my head and somehow, well, anyway, yeah, not a skill.
So let's ask you another one here. Let's see. What is the biggest risk that you've ever taken and did it pay off?
Wow. Well, at the risk of sounding like, my entire life has been risks. I'm one of those, again, ADHD. I have moved to a city sight unseen with no job and no place to live. Well, not the no place to live, one of the three I had a place to live, but I've moved to 3 different cities with no job, knowing no one 3 times in my life. So when I was 21, I moved to Louisville, Kentucky, sight unseen. We got there, we had a U-Haul. We slept in the U-Haul overnight until we could find an apartment, found jobs, moved back. My wife and I moved to Portland, Oregon. She's from that area, but she didn't, we didn't have any support system. We did stay with her aunt and uncle like an hour away from Portland for 2 days till we found an apartment, but we had everything in the world with us, including our cat and our dog. And then we moved to Hawaii. I did fly over and buy a house and then flew back and put everything in a 40-foot container, shipped it over, unloaded the container myself. And then my wife and son came over like a week later. But I'm one of those wherever life takes you kind of guys. That's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And it just is. It has come with, my wife and I like to say that we were about 5 years behind in our careers from moving all over the place, but it's worked out well. And, we've met amazing people. We've done amazing things. It's just, I don't suggest it for everybody. You've got to have a certain amount of will and stupidity to pull it off. And I have evidently both in spades, but yeah, I'd say my biggest risk is just going where my heart told me to go, even when everybody, including parts of my brain, were saying, what is wrong with you? Why are you doing this? But we've lived in some amazing places. We've met some amazing people. Just for example, my company is called Walkabout Travel. It's kind of anybody listening to this who's known me for a while, it's kind of a throwback bookend. When I lived in Portland back in the mid-90s, I owned a music store called Walkabout Music. So I thought when I was trying to think of a name for, when you start an LLC, or you have to think of a name. I was trying to think of one. I was like, I wonder if Walkabout Travel is available. And I typed it into Google and it was like, huh? I was like, yes. No, that's what I would say. The risk is if it makes my heart tells me to do it, I do it. And like I said, sometimes it's had some downsides, but in general, I'd say on balance, it's made a hell of a life. I was, this is not bragging. This is just kind of funny. When I was still a principal, we were going to a school function that was 45 minutes away and the bus was full. So I took 3 teachers in my personal car and we drove together. And one of the women there were 3 women with me, and one of the women knew my backstory. And she started asking me pointed questions. It was pretty funny. After about the second question, I was like, I know where this is going. So basically she was asking me about all the crazy stuff I've done. And when I got finished, the science teacher sitting in the back, and then I heard her go, damn, I haven't done anything. It's like, well, you can look at it that way, or you can look at it as this man's crazy. But yeah, I would say that's my biggest risk is risk. It's nothing. I always willing to bet on myself. And I know that sounds, but I don't mean it that way. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'll find a job. I'll do this. It's like I said, it's equal parts crazy and stupid. But that's me.
So once again, folks, if you're joining us for the first time today, welcome to Life in the Baggage Claim, our weekly podcast. We are drifting and deviating off our standard programming today for this special edition of Let's Meet Chuck. If you are new here, a shout out, welcome. Please let us know where you're from and what you're doing. We have got a good number of followers already, which is surprising. And maybe not surprising, but talk about jumping out and just taking risks. That was sort of when I reached out to Chuck and said, what do you think about a podcast on travel? He immediately said yes. Then I found the backstory was he's always wanted to do a podcast. He just needed somebody to ask him, basically. So we are playing this game today of who's Chuck. So that's where the questions are coming from. I'm going to ask you another one, Chuck. What is the one small everyday thing that brings you disproportionate joy?
My cat. I know that sounds horrible and that sounds so sad. But no, my cat, every morning when I wake up, when my alarm goes off, she comes up and stands on my chest and rubs, I call it kitty face. She gives me I pet her, and then she lays down and purrs for a minute while I get myself together. And then about 10 seconds after that, she starts screaming at me for breakfast and doesn't stop until I feed her. She's actually behind me right now, asleep in a box. And she brings me a joy. It's funny. My son's 28. He's out of the house, been out of the house for years. And my wife has a cat and I have a cat. And we're at that age. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. But we'll be sitting in the evening watching TV, and her cat is on her lap and my cat's on my lap. And it just makes it just.
There are so many inappropriate things I can say right now. I'm just going to stop. I'm going to put my filters on, which is unusual.
Well, I thought, hey, I'll set you up a little bit and give you some opportunities. You go right ahead.
No, it's sort of funny. I shouldn't be talking about me. There is people who know that I'm the one in the room who will ask the question everybody's thinking, but nobody will ask. That's me, right? So if I feel something, no matter how inappropriate it may be, should be said, I will. And I will laugh at it myself because I'm thinking, well, everybody wanted to have it asked. Right? I'm not going to do it because I'm not going to get us, booted off of somewhere on Yahoo for saying something. I mean, we're already saying we're an over 18 crowd. I don't need to take it any further now if someone, cancel us because of it.
Well, and the other beautiful,
figure out where I was going.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The other beautiful thing about Jim is we all know what he was thinking. We didn't have to say it. We know exactly what you were thinking. In real life,
they'd be there. Yeah. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine, Marianne, last night, and I said to her, I says, I do realize that I'm the kind of person who is a shit disturber. When I come into the room, I will make things interesting because I'm going to toss it all up. And she goes, it's great that, she's like, hey, you finally admit it,
Well, it's funny you said that because anybody who listened last week and the whole, shovel and hole discussion, my wife and I were actually watching yesterday. Wait, today's Wednesday. Sorry, Monday when you posted the podcast. I casually mentioned that, episode 6 was in the bag, and she's like, well, pull it up. So we sat there and watched it on TV, on YouTube. And she just kept saying to me, she goes, you are so restrained. And I'm like, well, yeah. I said, I guess I'm the straight guy to Jim, wow. That's
in more ways than one, but that's okay.
I can't believe I said that. But, in the comedy world. But no, it's very funny. I'm usually that guy as well. And when we play off of each other, you're usually right out there. So I'm like, I'm just gonna be supportive. It's okay. And I love it. I love our
at an Irish pub. I've seen that side of you at an Irish pub.
I know. But yeah, my wife was just like, who is this guy? Meaning me. Like, you're really not fairly calm. I'm like, oh, well, one of us has got to be calm. So it's going to be me.
Well, we are going to make sure that as the future of this podcast continues, you start taking some more spotlight time, because I will talk over anybody and anything. That's just me. You're kind of your typical Leo in that way. And I've got a moment, I see the spotlight, I'm like, hey, I'm here, There's another one for the bloopers reel, I'm sure.
Already got it listed.
Like every time we do something, I'm thinking that's the next comedy role he's going to build.
Right.
All right. So what's the best words of wisdom that you ever got?
Well, I use it all. Well, I'll give you 2. One of them, and they both came from my father, who was a character. He's been gone for 3 decades, but he was a character and he had 1,000,001 sayings. And I'll give you the funny one first. My father always used to say, there's no sense in being dumb if you can't prove it. And he would usually say that after someone who just doing something really stupid. And that one has stuck with me. And I use it on myself often. I'll do something like, oh, if you're dumb, you can't prove it. I would say that my father gave me the words of wisdom he gave me. I can remember it like it was yesterday. I was probably 6 or 7, a little kid, but I was old enough to understand it. And he said to me, well, I take that back. I was old enough to have to ponder it a little bit. But what he said to me is, he said, there's nobody in the world better than me, and I'm not better than anyone in the world. And I thought about that, and I have lived my life that way. No one's going to run over top of me. I'm not going to let anybody disrespect my family or anything like that. But I also don't believe I am better than anybody else. I truly believe that we all are on this ball rotating at 1,000 miles an hour or whatever the hell it is. And I believe we all have our issues. We all have our context. We all have our backstories. We all have, you're in a situation where you run into somebody. I've worked in stores and retail and stuff like that, and service industries and all that. And, people come in with a bad attitude and they're angry, and I've just always, and I think this is what allowed me to work with tough kids, for so long is I'm just always able to stop myself mentally for a second and go, what was this person dealing with before they walked up to me? Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to stand there and let you cuss me, for no reason. But I always just try to put myself in that situation of, what's going on in this person's life. And then I have a line in my head of how far I'll let you go with it before I'm like, all right, Jim, enough. You've cussed me.
I think that's really sage advice. I think everybody could learn, if everybody could learn to take a moment before erupting with somebody, right? And say, what was happening to that person before they got to me?
Right.
And then blew up on me. Maybe they had a really bad situation and hadn't quite diffused it yet. So I think that's great advice. I think that's something everybody can learn to practice is sort of to take a moment and breathe and think, right?
Right. Well, and I took it a step further. When I was principal of an alternative school here in Virginia, there's schools where kids are kicked out of public school all the way down to kids who've been in juvenile detention or working their way back up. And their behavioral programs, they're fully accredited in education and all that. Kids have to carry point sheets. They have to be appropriate and everything else. And there was this question that came up about, so our kids have to work up levels. And when they get to a certain level, then I would start talking to the public school and say, hey, Jim showed a lot of progress. I think it's probably time we talk about transitioning back to public school. So losing an entire level was 4 weeks of work. And one of our rules was disrespect to staff was an automatic level drop. Just because that was one of the things. First of all, I don't deserve to be, cursed at and all that. But second of all, if you're going back to public school, the first time that comes out of your mouth to a teacher, you're going to be going back into a resident or program. So we just had to get the kids over that thing. Well, people kept writing kids up, and I was just like, we dug into it for a little bit. I'm like, we have to understand there's a distinction between me saying F you, Jim, and F this school.
Right.
F this school is not disrespect to staff. Now, that's in our world, that was abusive language. That was a much smaller write-up. We need to talk about it. It's not okay. But F you, that's disrespect to staff. And it was really, really interesting. We put that, and that kind of goes back to my belief in what are people's motivations. Once we put in that in place, we started noticing that there were quite a bit fewer level drops. Now, if the kid said to a teacher, F you and F your family and blah, 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 forget it. That's a level drop. You went into that knowing that's not okay. But and I'm not always perfect at it, but I always try to get myself in a mindset of what was this person dealing with 10 minutes before they walked up to me.
Right. I think that's really good. I try to do that too. It's a little bit of living in that moment and understanding what's happening. You never want to make assumptions about somebody. You never know what is going on in their life, what their situation is, where their trigger points are. Chuck learned this morning that if he talked about being an English teacher and telling his podcast partner that he had spelt his website wrong, which I admit I did. I didn't realize. And then I went off on an entire tangent on sentence diagrams and other things and how English teachers scarred me for life, which Chuck was an English teacher.
Yes. And I felt that pain because all I said was, hey, just going forward, you spelled it wrong. I'm like, okay, all right. So I could have taken it personally, but I was like, Jim has feelings, so I'm just going to let them happen.
And after it was done, I was like, trigger warning.
Oh yeah, I will not talk about spelling ever again. Or maybe I'll send it to you in an email so that I can.
I think the first time I ever thought about the fact that it actually was probably more damaging in my life than I ever thought. That the English teachers, it was sentence diagramming. I'm not going to, nope, stop, bring it down.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, they don't do that anymore.
Well, they don't do a lot of things anymore that you and I were educated on. They don't teach penmanship. They don't teach a lot of, new math. I do not understand.
No. I saw this meme the other day. It said, if you've never cried sitting at the kitchen table while your dad tries to teach you math, have you really ever lived? I was like, yeah.
One, we talked about this. I grew up in a very scientific family, right? My dad was a laser physicist. He worked in Lawrence Livermore Laboratories. If you watch the original Tron and you remember the big white laser thing, he worked on that. So it's like, I lived in this house where the things he brought home from work were like a laser that was the side of a loaf of bread that we could play with, and I'm thinking to myself, other kids weren't doing that. I was, but we didn't have the artsy fartsy creative side, right? But his mom was an artist. She loved to draw and stuff like that. So I got my creative from her. So it's just very interesting when you look at how your families build who you are, right? So, same thing with just respect. And obviously your dad was a smart guy with this whole, that there's proof of certain things. I think there's just a lot to be said there. We all want products of our parents.
Absolutely.
Which is why I often think in this day and age, when there's a youngster misbehaving, I'm like, yeah, so tell me about your dad and mom.
And folks, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, this is the portion of the show where Jim starts talking about kids.
Hold on there. Oh my gosh. Derek, my friend, mentioned, he goes, clearly we need to talk about your issue with kids after you watch last music. Like, yeah, well, things are going to come out. I mean, I do like kids. I have had really great interactions with kids. My godsons have been amazing. I held one in my arms when everybody else he was screaming with, when I held him, he fell asleep. Now, that may say something about me. I don't know, but I think kids are great. I think well-behaved children. I wish my sister had kids. I would have loved to have been an uncle. I would have sugared them and caffeined them up and then sent them home.
Absolutely. I told my son that I want to live long enough to ruin his children.
There you go. See, that's all I wanted to do. Have an influence on somebody else's children in life.
I told him I'll be ready to take my last breath when I hear the following sentence. Grandpa lets me do it. That's all I want to hear. All I want to hear.
Fair enough. So let's talk. Let's ask this one. What is your greatest non-family enjoyment in life?
Greatest non-family. It's a tough one because my family is everything to me. And I'm not saying that because they listen. I'm saying it because they know truth. Music, my entire life, music. And one of my earliest memories, I remember my father had gone to, you just go to, in the little town we lived in, there used to be an auction every Friday night. And my parents didn't have a lot of money starting out, so they would go to the auction and try to get, little pieces of furniture and things like that. And my dad bought an acoustic guitar that had no strings on it. And one of my oldest memories, I think I was 3, I was bouncing up and down on my bed, playing this guitar, screaming Elvis tunes at the top of my lungs. And music has informed my life ever since. I'm a musician. I've played in bands off and on my whole life since I was 14. If I could turn the camera slightly, but I can't. I have a wall of guitars and basses right here. This is my studio / music room. I listen to music 24/7. Drives my wife nuts. She likes quiet sometimes, and I don't do quiet very well. But no, music. Music is absolutely, other than my family, and then not being cheesy, but other than my family, music brings me the greatest joy. It just does. There's nothing. Yeah, it can calm me down. It can hype me up. It can.
That's interesting. I love this. This is actually good for me. I think the more I get to know you and the more we talk, the more I realize how much we really have in common. Mm-hmm. Maybe different perspectives at times, but definitely a lot of commonalities. And I think that's part of what drew us together when we met, was just something was clicking real fast. I mean, it went from hey, what are you doing tonight? And going and having an Irish pub dinner to going back several more nights and having dinner and keeping it going and finding a rhythm that was really fun. If you're joining us today, we welcome you. We're glad you're here. Life in the baggage claim. We are travel agents, by the way. So this is not the money making part of our lives. So if you are looking for an advisor to help you plan your next holiday or family reunion or gathering, that's what we're here for. Our services are free. You don't pay to work with us. You pay, the suppliers pay for us to sell you stuff, right? To get you into something. So, and I think we haven't talked a lot about this in the podcast. There's a lot about this podcast is fun for sharing information, for having a conversation. I tell you that I looked forward to Wednesdays a lot right now because this is studio time. And I get up and I go, yay, we have studio time today. And it's fun and it's exciting. And I know we're going to have an hour and I'm going to walk away a little drained, but also pumped. But we are also running travel businesses. So we are out here. This is supposed to help us generate some form of lead, not just comedy and such. But, so our travel information is posted in the website and it's on our videos when we put them up. So, do keep us in mind for that. We are licensed to sell travel to anybody in the United States. We can get you anywhere in the world, but we can sell anyone in the United States. So don't forget about that, because that's we want to keep doing this podcast, but if they ain't no income, there may not be a podcast at some point. I don't know. It's all about what we can do. So this is fun. Hey, Chuck, this has been a great episode. I think that for people who haven't watched, this might come across a little different. It may be a make or break for some. For those of you who have been watching, maybe this gives you a little more intimate look at who Chuck Longerbeam is and what he's about. It's really been fun. We appreciate all of you who are joining us regularly. We hope to keep you here.
Well, and Jim, the simple fact is that, and this goes for every human being, this is Psychology 101. No one buys from someone they don't like. No one does business with someone they don't like. And so, this is, hopefully people have listened to this and they're like, okay, this guy's a goofball, but he seems like he's got a big heart. And, that's the whole point of this is and you and I've talked about this many times over many episodes, but of course I'm trying to make a living. You're trying to make a living. We're not trying to pretend that that's not the case or whatever.
We can start him here.
Right. But the other part of that is having someone come off of a cruise or a trip or something like that and text your email or call you and say, oh my God, this was so great. Let me tell you about. That's the payoff. I mean, other than the finances, yes, obviously we've got to put food on the table and pay the rent. But the whole point is, and I know Jim and I've talked about this, so I don't usually speak for folks, but I'll speak for him on this one because we've talked this one to death. We both got into this because we enjoy helping people go places and enjoy their lives. And we could have done anything else. I'll just say this. I've done sales. Jim's done sales. We're talkers. We'd be fine wherever we go. But this, at this point in our life, just made sense to both of us to help folks make dreams, make realities, make memories, and, make a living off of it. And that's the whole point. So, hopefully getting to know us a little bit better will inform which way you go, whether you decide that you want to do business with us or not. And, either way, please keep listening. Like Jim said, subscribe, tell your friends. We would love to grow this. The whole point is we love doing this. I agree with Jim. I look forward to Wednesdays. I was like, my wife hasn't quite gotten used to this yet. And she goes, what you got planned today? I'm like, well, the podcast that we're doing the podcast. She goes, oh yeah. But I really enjoy doing this, but you're right. There will be a point where we don't do this anymore if, we're doing it for 10 people or we're not making any money. And I don't want to, that's not a plea for, buy my product. That's not what I'm saying. We're doing this for all the right reasons. Hopefully you see that. Hopefully, and if you need any travel, if you need any help with travel, any place, anything, if you just need to book a hotel in another state, let us know. We'll help you. Anything at all. That's what we're here for. And that's why we're doing this. And we're enjoying the heck out of it. But yeah, there is a reason behind it. So.
Yeah. And I think you said it all. I don't say anymore. So I think, wow, I know, right? Silence. That and there's some music playing in my house somewhere. I'm wondering how.
Okay.
Strange things happen at the Hauck house occasionally. Things just start. But that's the life of I'm into home automation. I like smart home stuff. Everything's tied together, but that means that, sometimes things just happen. Mm-hmm. I may have said something and Siri said, okay, and started doing it, so I have to be very careful how I talk around the house sometimes. And I have a friend when we're on speakerphone who will say, hey, Google, just to make sure he plays with my system while we're talking.
That's funny.
No, I deviate off of that. So folks, see, just said to me, do you want to call somebody? And again, thank you for being here today. To our new folks, thank you for joining us. If it's your first time, I'm Jim Hauck. I'm located in Dallas, Texas. I am a cruise planner, and I'm the owner of JP Hauck Adventures and the co-host of Life in the Baggage Claim. And
Chuck Longerbeam, Charlottesville, Virginia, Walkabout Travel. And I am the co-host with the ever-present Jim Hauck. So thank you, Jim, for today. This has been wonderful.
Yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, share. You know those things. I can't tell you how many times I said to a friend, watch my podcast. Like, do I have to follow it and like it? And I'm like, well, yeah, damn well better, or I'm going to just unfriend you.
That's right. I know where you live.
I'll be on social media about you. You watch. And if you join us and you're new and you shout out to us, well, we might shout out to you during the podcast, and you get your 2 seconds of fame with us, which I don't know if it's worth a lot yet, but there is something about, I've been on a Real Housewives of Orange County episode. It was my big moment in time. You do not know this one, do you?
What? I have not heard this.
For the one you get to know Jim episode.
Wow. Okay. All right. That better come out. I better get details.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Have yourselves a great week. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you,
we are Life in the Baggage Claim. Have a great day.